If your Norcold fridge won't turn on at all, then there's a really good chance that your problem is a part called the high temperature monitoring switch. Luckily, this part is super easy to get to and super easy to figure out if he's your problem. My name is Emily. I'm a certified RV repair tech, and this is RV Repair Woman. Your high temperature monitoring switch, or HTMS if you want to sound fancy, its whole job is to make sure that this tube on the side of your fridge does not get too hot, and then to shut down the entire fridge if that does happen. There are a couple of ways that this guy can fail, but luckily he has a bright red LED light on the front of him that will tell you if he is your problem. There are 4 different things that LED could be doing, and you're gonna take a different action depending on what that LED is doing. So the first thing that LED might be doing is just being solid. Just a solid red light. What that solid light indicates is that the high temperature monitoring switch picked up that that tube was getting too hot, and so it shut down the fridge. There are 3 things that could cause that red light to come on. Either you have a systemic problem and that tube is consistently getting too hot because something is wrong, or there could have just been a blip, weird things happen, and that tube got too hot for just a second and the high temperature monitoring switch kicked. Or you had water intrusion inside the high temperature monitoring switch. If water gets into this guy, he'll turn off and he'll throw that red light. So if it has rained recently, or you've had your RV cleaned recently and someone sprayed a hose near where your fridge is, there's a good chance water got into him and that's why he popped. No matter which of these 3 scenarios you think you fall in, there is a way to reset the high temperature monitoring switch, and I'm gonna show you how to do that. But if you haven't had any chance of water getting to this guy in a while, I'm gonna say once you reset your high temperature monitoring switch, I want you to keep a close eye on the back of your fridge. We wanna make sure that you're not in that first category where you have a systemic problem and there's something really wrong happening in the back of your fridge. If it rained recently, there's a good chance you can just reset the high temperature monitoring switch and you'll be good to go. In order to reset your HTMS, you're gonna be looking for a very strong magnet. They're usually labeled rare earth magnets or neodymium magnets. I highly recommend, if you have a Norcold fridge, even if you haven't had this problem before, to just have one of these magnets on hand so you're ready. You're just gonna take that magnet and hold it near the top of the high temperature monitoring switch. Hold it there for about 5 to 15 seconds. You should hear a click and that LED should turn off. And huzzah, your fridge should start working again. This is not a hack. This is not you like breaking the system. This is actually the way that the manufacturer wants you resetting this high temperature monitoring switch. Why they didn't just put a button on it, the world may never know. Norcold actually tries to sell you a like proprietary magnet just for resetting your high temperature monitoring switch. You don't need to buy their fancy magnet. Just go get a strong magnet and have it on hand if this ever happens to you. Please keep in mind though that if you didn't have any chance of water intrusion, that if you reset your high temperature monitoring switch and then it kicks again pretty soon after, that I then want you to call a certified tech. We're getting into, there is something really wrong going with your fridge that I don't want lay people just like mucking around with. For some reason, that tube is getting really hot consistently and something is wrong, and you want to get a professional to look at it. I'm putting this trust in your hands. You can do this, but you're going to be responsible. The next thing that light might be doing is flashing quickly, like 2 to 3 times per second. If that light is flashing quickly, then that is telling you that you have a bad thermocouple. There is a brown wire coming out of this guy. He's just the temperature probe that the HTMS is using to monitor the temperature of that tube. That temperature probe that's meant to detect the tube has just gone bad. Go ahead and switch that bad boy out. You should be good to go. If you've taken other classes of mine, you may be like, Emily, can't I test the thermocouple for like continuity or resistance just to know that it's good? Norcold doesn't give us what range of resistance that this thermocouple should give us. So no, you can't, and you just kind of have to trust that the high temperature monitoring switch is giving you a good reading. I personally have never ran into a scenario where the high temperature monitoring switch is telling me I have a bad thermocouple and I don't. So this is a time that we trust technology. If that light is instead flashing slow, like once per second, that means that the high temperature monitoring switch is not getting good voltage. We can double check this with our multimeters if we have one. Go ahead and set your multimeter to DC volts. You should see a terminal on your HTMS labeled 12 volts in, 12 plus, DC in, something like that. Go ahead and put your red probe on that terminal and take your black probe and put it on any metal part of the case of the fridge. You should see something in the realm of 12 volts. If you're seeing any reading under 9.5, then that backs up what the HTMS is telling you. This is where I would start double checking. Hey, is the circuit board getting 12 volts going to it? Is it sending 12 volts out? We're getting more into the nitty gritty, diagnosing every part of your fridge. If that is the case for you and you want to be able to diagnose all of that on your own, I highly recommend heading on over to rvrepairwoman.com/fridges. The link is in the description. I have a course that'll walk you through step by step how to diagnose every part in the back of your fridge. This is going to cost you less than what most techs would charge for a single call, and instead you'll have all of this information in your back pocket in case anything else goes wrong in the future. It basically walks you through exactly what I would do if you called me with a problem with your fridge. Highly recommend that if you're sick and tired of combing through YouTube and just want to get your freaking fridge solved today. You got this. And then finally, the last thing that this LED could be doing is not being on at all. If this LED is not on, then the HTMS is most likely not your problem. And there is some other reason why your fridge is not turning on. And I would also recommend that you head on over to rvrepairwoman.com/fridges and check out that course. See if it can help you. You got this.